In May of 2018, Marvel entrusted the fate of their Avengers franchise to writer Jason Aaron and artist Ed McGuinness in a brand new volume of Avengers. Nearly 5 years later, it's time for Jason Aaron to go ahead and wrap up the landmark saga with the Avengers Assemble crossover event. But is Aaron able to wrap up his lofty ideas, and will the culmination of all these threads in one massive event from multiple Avengers comic book series lead to confusion or greatness? My name is Arik O'Branock, and today, let's go ahead and dive deep into Avengers Assemble Alpha #1 to see if this issue is able to pull together so many plot threads. Also, Marvel Comics has went ahead and dubbed this as the biggest Avengers saga in Marvel history. So it's up to us to see if this is actually Marvel's biggest Avengers saga ever, or if there's some past stories that eclipse this one in scope. But before we get deeper into the video, I want to go ahead and encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel if you like our content, and please make sure to go ahead and hit that like button as well. Without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce our creative team on Avengers Assemble Alpha #1. This issue is written by Jason Aaron. We have art from Bryan Hitch, colors from Alex Sinclair, inks from Andrew Currie, and letters from VC's Cory Petit. The cover for the issue that I'm going to show you guys in just a moment is illustrated by Bryan Hitch and Alejandro Sanchez. And before we dive deeper into this review, I want to go ahead and give you guys some context for this crossover by reading off Marvel's solicitation text for the issue. Uniting the Avengers, Avengers Forever, and Avengers of 1 million BC in an epic saga that forms the capstone to Jason Aaron's era on Avengers. From throughout time and the far corners of the multiverse, the mightiest heroes of all the Earths are assembling as never before for a battle beyond all imagining. A war that will take us from the prehistoric beginnings of an Earth under assault by the greatest villains who have ever lived to the watchtower that stands at the dark heart of all, and the always where an army of unprecedented evil now rises. The biggest Avengers saga in Marvel history begins now, and this story will be continued in the upcoming Avengers 63. All right, so I want to go ahead and show off the beautiful cover from Bryan Hitch. Go ahead and take a look at that gorgeous cover for the issue. And let's go ahead and dive deep into our review on Avengers Assemble Alpha. Big thanks to Adventures in Poor Taste for providing this preview so incredibly quickly. And also, I want to give just a little bit of context behind my personal history with Jason Aaron's Avengers, even though I gave a little bit of a kind of explanation up top. But I've tried multiple times with countless issues of this series, and sometimes it's been able to connect with me for an issue or two, but I haven't really found the kind of hook that has kept me reading, this series the whole time. So I was hoping that Avengers Assemble Alpha #1 would be an issue that would break my rocky track record with Jason Aaron's Avengers and let me just enjoy the series. There is some interesting setup for the issue, as this character known as Avenger Prime escapes his kind of the place where he's keeping himself safe because the enemies are trying to get to him. So in this issue, he kind of ventures outside of the place where he's been, the past couple issues, which is kind of an intriguing setup. We know that Marvel Comics villain Mephisto has been lingering about in the pages of Jason Aaron's Avengers over the past couple issues to years, potentially. So it is nice to go ahead and get caught up with Mephisto and Avenger Prime before the Avengers Assemble Alpha series really kind of kicks off in earnest. Also, I really like the Avengers Forever. The Avengers Forever characters with the all-writer Robbie Reyes and the inverted versions of Marvel heroes, like the new Ant-Man character. Sadly, those characters don't really show up in this series until the end. So I feel like the bulk of this issue itself functions more like a traditional Avengers issue as opposed to an Avengers Forever issue, which covers, the great multiversal, characters and series. In addition to just the regular Avengers characters, Avengers Prime and Mephisto, the Avengers 1 million BC show up again. And I feel like I've been charitable to this title in the past, but it's been so long and I still don't quite understand where Jason Aaron is trying to take this plot thread with these characters. He uses them, very sparsely, but I don't feel like they really add the elements of lore to his run that he's trying to evoke within this issue. So ultimately, I don't believe that the Avengers 1 million BC served their purpose in this issue after, I think at this point, it's been years of us waiting for Marvel to do anything with these characters. And, sadly, I wanted to like this issue so much more than I actually did. But when the Avengers first meet the Avengers 1 million BC, they end up locked in a massive battle. And to me, this deflated so much of the tension of the story because there isn't really a fantastic reason for these two teams of characters to be fighting with each other. There's more interesting plot threads that Jason Aaron has set up in other parts of the Marvel Universe. And instead of giving us what we want, like uncovering the identity of the mysterious Avenger Prime, we're just getting these like monotonous action scenes that show me that maybe Jason Aaron doesn't know what the most interesting part of this script or this story is. I'm reminded of other Avengers stories, and I feel like I could come up with one that is just as big as this one that maybe didn't have this vast amount of, characters on the screen. So it's just super disappointing that I wasn't able to engage with this comic on the deeper level I wanted to because I was so interested in the villain of Mephisto and of Avengers Prime himself. I love the idea of kind of like the All-Righter and the Avengers Forever. I mean, I even like the kind of multiversal Masters of Evil, but I don't feel like they get that much screen time in this issue either. It's just kind of some of the worst parts of the main Avengers title that are kind of resurfacing in a different way. I feel like we've gone on way too much without addressing some of the artwork from Bryan Hitch. I really enjoyed the artwork from Bryan Hitch. Bryan Hitch is drawing so many different characters on the page, but I feel like he does a great job kind of organizing and illustrating, all of them so that, we can see them. There's interesting page compositions. There's interesting, panels on the page. Bryan Hitch is drawing a vast amount of material throughout this comic book, but I thought he did just a phenomenal job rendering all of the characters with a level of precision that is just kind of unmatched among, other comic book artists. Also, I love some of the characters on this team. It's really cool to see like Valkyrie. It's great to see, the Starbrand character as well. And the Avengers BC are all very interesting characters. I just wish they were utilized in a different capacity overall at large here. I mean, and also with Bryan Hitch's art, I think he does a great job switching between so many different characters. A different group of artists initially worked on Avengers that worked on Avengers Forever, but Hitch is drawing so many different characters under one comic book issue, and I all think that they look incredibly legible and have an interesting kind of precision and personality to them. Also, towards the end of the issue, I do think Jason Aaron turns in some of the best work with his script. There's some creepy moments with Mephisto, as well as the multiversal, Masters of Evil that happens a little bit later in the issue. But for a comic book that is supposed to be dubbed as the biggest Avengers saga in Marvel history, I can say without a doubt that I was most certainly let down by this issue. And, sadly, I've been also let down by the work from the main Avengers title as a whole over the past couple of years. And I think that'll go ahead and, just wrap up our review for today. At the end of the day here, I am glad that Jason Aaron is getting so ambitious with different Avengers teams being, huddled under the roof of one title. But I don't think Avengers Assemble Alpha is able to declare itself as the biggest Avengers saga just because of the sheer amount of characters. I would still say, Avengers Ultron Unlimited and, Under Siege. Avengers stories like that are still going to have probably more prominence than these, bombastic crossovers, unless they have something that makes them a little bit more personal, like what we're seeing right now with Marvel Comics Dark Web, essentially establishing itself off of the backs of, multiple stories from the past. So I want to know, did you guys like this issue as much as I did? Do you personally think that this title is worthy of being called the biggest saga in Avengers history? I want you to let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. I'll be back very soon with more excellent comic book content. Thank you guys so much. Bye.